Hey everyone, it's Christopher Deane, and today we're going to recreate this, the Sketch Big Sur UI animation, with After Effects and a little bit of Sketch and Cinema 4D. Are you ready? Let's go. Okay, getting straight into it, the first thing you're going to need is this file, which is on my G drive, and I'm going to put a link to it in the description below, so go and grab that. Once you've got it, save it to your desktop or wherever you like, and unzip it. And here's the file unzipped. Let's go and take a look what it's got. It's got the Sketch Big Sur UI animation tutorial file. This is the After Effects file we'll be using. In the assets folder, there's a 3D folder, which has the rendered end scene of the Sketch logo spinning around like this. Now this was modeled in Cinema 4D, and we'll be going and installing that later on, but whether you have it or not, at least you have the rendered out PNGs here to finish off the tutorial with. In the scene folder, we've got the Cinema 4D scene itself. Let's go back and have a look at the Poppins font. This was a Google font I found that looks the closest to what they use in the animation. And to install that, you can just double click it. Install the font. Coming back in images, we've got the Big Sur wallpaper, which we'll be placing at the back of the animation. We've got the sketch file that we'll be using, and I put this together by kind of guessing the icons and UI design from watching the animation itself. And the video shows the original, so let's just take a look at that. Here we go, we got coming soon. It zooms in, the sidebar falls into place, then you got the toolbar coming in, and the inspector, yeah. And it finishes with that logo spinning around like you saw in those rendered PNGs. Now if we scrub back to the beginning, the coming soon comes in, and soon appears a little bit after that, then it zooms in, the UI comes in, and you can see there's a bit of an exaggerated angle here. So that's coming in from the far left. As we come in, again, from the far left, things start to straighten up about here and then come in from the far right. The main difference between this and the animation that we'll be doing is everything's going to come from the foreground to the background, as if it's just zooming into place this way. And the next thing we have to do is install all the software and plugins we'll need to do this tutorial. First up is After Effects, so go to the trials site. You might have to sign up for an Adobe account, but that's fine because you can use it for 7 days. If you've already got it, fantastic. We'll move on to Sketch. So download the Mac app trial. You've got 30 days there, so that's more than enough time to do this one. Then we're going to need a Sketch plugin and extension for After Effects, which is going to allow us to send the design from Sketch to After Effects in a couple of clicks, basically. It's pretty magic. So download it here. We're going to need the ZXP installer, which is going to install the extension for After Effects. So download that here. And we're going to need the San Francisco font from Apple. So just go here and download the SF Pro package and install it. Okay, so after you've installed After Effects and Sketch and installed all the fonts, we can now install AEUX. So let's go and see how we do that. I'm going to actually double click on this package to install the ZXP installer. There it is. I'm just going to drag it into applications. For me, it's going to ask to replace it because I've already got it. But let's do that. Go into this folder and we've got a plugin for Sketch. Double click on that. And yep, replace for me. It's already there. And let's run the ZXP installer. Okay. All we have to do here is drag this into this window. Put in your password and it's installing, and there you go. It's all done. And from here, the first thing we're going to have a look at is the sketch file. So let's go into that folder, open the file. And here we go. We've got the sidebar, the toolbar, the inspector. The way that AEUX is going to bring this into After Effects is everything that's in a folder becomes a null. So once this comes in, you'll be able to see that there's a null there called Sketch Big Sur. If I move that around, it'll move everything. If I move the controls null around, only those three things will move. And once they're there, you'll be able to toggle them off and on visibly anyway. You'll see that when we get into it. And there's a plugin here called AEUX, right? We're going to open the panel, and all it's asking us to do is send selection to AE. But before we do that, let's go and have a look at that After Effects file. And back at the unzipped folder, we're going to double click on the After Effects file. And here we go, it's starting up. Now, I've provided this already done, so we can use it as a reference when we start again. And if you want a bit of a crash course into After Effects and basic animation, you can see that here or there. That was part of my design system series. And I'm going to be doing a new version of that focuses more on just After Effects and putting your first Lottie animation together. For now, let's just get into this. And this is a pretty complex animation. So even if I move the playhead back to the beginning by just dragging it, you can see all the layers that have been made and all the pre-comps or compositions that are the icons and other elements. They're all there, and it takes a while for After Effects to actually render those frame by frame, because it has to consider all of that information and then build it as you go, and then you can render it out later on when you're finished. The shortcut to play this is just the space bar, so I'm just going to hit that. You can see the intro there come in, and then everything slows down. Lots of information to calculate. So there's motion blur on there. We've got the controls coming in one by one. Red first, then amber, then green. All the other layers come in. Might fast forward this bit a little bit. Okay, we're almost done. The camera's about to dolly back a little bit. Then we'll get into the outro, and then we'll watch it play through at normal speed. All right, coming soon is Sketch Big Sur UI Edition. There you go. Yes, sir. Pretty funny joke. And all the icons come in like TIE fighters, and then we zoom out and then spinny, spinny, and there we go. Okay, we're going to go up to Window, go to Extensions, and then open the AEUX window. It's going to move it over here to the right. You can see that it's going to create a new composition. That's what After Effects calls pretty much timelines. You can see one here. Once I double click on that, we're in this timeline. And let's go back up to here. We're going to bring everything at 1x. The frame rate is going to be 25 frames per second. If you're in the stage, you can probably change that to 30. And then the comp duration is going to be 15 seconds because that's what the original video is. And okay, let's go back to Sketch and send the information over to here. With the entire artboard selected, we're going to go Send Selection to AE. Okay, and it's coming in. Building itself. All right. Close that window. Zoom in a little bit. All I did there was Command plus. Let's just see if it's brought everything in okay. Okay, this looks all right. Now it's looking a little bit blurry because After Effects visualizes things and renders them as pixels, not vectors. Even though you can create shape layers like vectors in After Effects, they'll still be considered pixels at the end of the day. And inside the composition window, there's a little toggle down here that you can change to fit. That's going to move everything back to fit into that window. At the bottom of the timeline, there's a little toggle here. Expand or collapse the transfer controls pane. Let's just hit that. That's going to turn off a couple of things we don't need. We just need the parent and link to be able to see all the folders that have come in as nulls. Remember how I told you if you move one, you'll move them all? Let's select this. I'm just going to hold down Shift and the left arrow. It's going to move everything to the left and then back to the right. You can select the controls null. That's the only thing that moves. Take a look at all these symbols that have come in as compositions. So if I double click on this, just like a symbol in Sketch, you'll be able to go into it and see what it's made of. Let's zoom in. This is just the red circle that's in the controls. That's going to close your window. Let's jump back out of that. Now I want to select all of them, so I'm just going to hold down Command and select them all as I go down and see them. I can do that here as well. It's going to take a little while, but I want to make them all have the same color so I can see that they are easily a symbol. Yeah, they're all different colors here. So if we click on here, we can change this to sandstone, and it will take on the default composition color that you get in After Effects. I'm going to then change all the nulls to cyan. So it's going to select them. That's a shape layer, so I'm going to leave that. Here we go. There we go. There's two of them there, and that's it. Okay, hover over that, change that to cyan. Anything that's a shape layer, like this enabled thing here, is going to get changed to blue. And all the text is going to get changed to red. Scroll back to the top, and we're going to now change the composition size to 1920 by 1080. So we can click on the composition here, just like we would there and there. Right click on it and go to Composition Settings. We're going to unlock the ratio and change this to 1920 by 1080. Zoom out. Now that's placed nicely in the middle. And all I'm doing there is Command minus and plus to zoom in and out. You can do the same thing with the timeline, but all you do is place your playhead anywhere and then press plus to zoom in and minus to zoom out. So that's a good shortcut to know. The other great shortcuts to know that are going to make this tutorial a lot faster for you are Command right and left keys are going to go forward and back one keyframe. There's also Command Shift forward arrow, which will get you 10 frames ahead, and the left arrow will go back 10 frames. So that's good for when you're scrubbing through and setting keyframes, which we'll get into in a little while. But before we do, let's add a camera. And to do that, I'm going to go to the right-hand side of the layer list here and right-click and go New Camera. And we want a one-node camera, which is at 35 millimeters. Now, we're going to be parenting this camera to a null and moving the null, which is going to move the camera where we want it to go. That makes the camera a bit more smoother. I mean, you could do it just with the camera, but I'm going to show you how you can control the camera with the null. Let's just go OK. We're going to right click again and then go to null object. We're going to select its name, press enter, and change this to camera null. We're then going to make it a 3D layer. So you can see this little 3D icon here. Let's hit that. That's made it 3D. We're going to select this little pickwick here up to the camera. That's going to parent the camera to the null, and you can see that here. Then we're going to change the color of the camera to yellow. All right, now if we hit position on the null and then hit position here, we actually want to make this about -395. Okay, nothing much happened because we haven't made all the other layers 3D either. So let's select that master null and go all the way to the bottom. Hold down Shift to select everything. Go back up to the top and hit the 3D icon again in this first square. There we go, that's brought everything back, but there's still some things that aren't being shown. And what we can do to fix this is to go through all of the symbols that have come through as compositions, double click on them, make sure they're set to 3D and that motion blur is enabled. So that's the motion blur icon there. It's going to get out of there by Command W, jump into the next one, that's fine. Jump into the next one, fine. Slowly scroll down to icon canvas. That looks all right. Components one looks all right. And the other ones were only set up automatically because they were already there in the file that we're using. So with this open, we can actually click and drag to set all of those to 3D and then set these two. These two are nested symbols, so let's just double click on that. That one's fine. Double click on that, that one's fine. Get out of them and back to the main composition. Icon add is fine. This one needs to be set. That one's fine. Okay, I'm going to fast forward myself going through all of these, and then we'll come back when everything's set up. And okay, it may look like a white rectangle at the moment, but we're zoomed in to the canvas that is in the sketch file. This is horizontal and this is vertical. So let's change this to something like 200. Maybe 100. All right, we're starting to see something. Great. Let's bring that all the way down to something like 50. Maybe in 45. Because that's kind of what we see as the middle point of the animation, right? It pans across and hits that area. So with that done, I'm going to actually add another view. So I'm going to go to the bottom here and select two views horizontal. I'm going to select the one on the right and change it from camera 1 to custom view. There we go. We've got a 3D view on the right-hand side. If I select the camera, you can see it there and you can see the null controlling it. I'm going to select the one on the left, maybe change its resolution to half. You can do that there. That's going to allow After Effects to only have to render half of the pixels that it sees because, yeah, once we start animating, this is going to get pretty stressful on the old CPU and the fans are going to kick in. And with that done, we're missing something at the back, right? That Big Sur wallpaper. So I'm going to scroll right down to the bottom of the timeline, go up to the Assets folder here, and in Images, it's already there. I'm going to select it and drag it right down to the bottom. Let it go. Turn it into a 3D layer, just like we did with all the others. Make it motion blurred. Hit P to open up its position. Change this to around 50, so it just moves it back a little bit. If I now hit S, it's going to show scale. And I'm going to change this to 40. I'm going to scroll back up. I'm actually going to go to about the 8-second mark and then 10 frames forward. Go over to the right-hand side here and you can see this little upside down triangle. That's a marker. I'm going to drag that in and hold down Shift so it snaps right to about there. I'm going to double click on it and change this to middle. Then I'm going to come back to around the 5-second mark and I can hold down Shift and just click on anywhere and it's going to snap into place. Bring in another marker. Call this one Cam Start because that's where the camera starts to pan from left to right. Go to the 3-second mark and go forward about 5 frames. So again, Command forward arrow, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bring in another marker, double click on this, call this Cam Intro. Because that's where it starts to kind of zoom in before it takes that pan. And then from there, I'm going to hold down Command, Shift, and then go left arrow. And call this Scene. This is where we move from the intro with the white background and the text to what you actually see here. I'm going to skip all the way over to 12 seconds. Bring in another marker. Call this Cam End. Then I'm going to come into 13 seconds. Go forward 1. Bring in a marker and call this Logo. You can see it shift there. So I'm just going to move it back. Let's come back to Scene. Go 2 frames back, move that. Go to Cam Intro and move forward 2. Go right back to the beginning. So again, I'm just holding down Shift and clicking over there. Grab another marker, bring that into here and call this Intro with a capital I. What we've basically done there is set the chapter points for the whole timeline, where we see the intro, where the scene starts, where the cam intro comes in, slowly pans in to cam start, and we've got middle, where the cam ends, and then the 3D Spitty logo at the end. Just going to select that and close it. Right click here and go New, Solid. Change this to that and press OK. And where the scene starts, I'm just going to select there and hold down Option, right bracket. That's going to crop that back to there, and we can just bump that back. Then I'm going to go back to the first frame, zoom out a little bit, and this is the white intro that we're going to be doing. Now I'm going to select the left-hand side and hit this here so you can see Choose Grid and Guide options. I'm going to turn on Title Action Safe. Now television and film productions use these to make sure the titles fall within different ratios, but we're just going to use them as a guide. Then I'm going to select that solid and go over to its color, change it to none, so it goes to gray. That's the closest thing to white basically. I'm going to grab the camera here and its null and actually move those over by dragging that left-hand side to the beginning of the scene. And then I'm going to go back here and make sure that active camera is set instead of camera 1. We swap that over there. It's going to try to use the camera. Let's just change that to active camera. Now let's select the solid and then go up to the type tool. So that's up here in the toolbar. Let's select it. And I'm just going to drag from about there downwards. Okay, now I'm going to type coming soon. All right, it's a bit too high, so let's just drag the bottom of that text there. Move it down. And you can see this little target there. That's its anchor point. We want to get that back to the middle. So we're going to hold down a command and go up here and double click on this. There you go. That's the pan behind tool. If you select Y, it'll open it up and then you can drag this anywhere you want. And that's sometimes good if you want to go to the left-hand side and then animate your text like this. Let's just reset it into the middle again. Then go up to the toolbar and select the main selection tool to jump out of that. Now we're going to turn this into a 3D layer, like this. Go over to the right-hand side where scene is, hit Option, right bracket again to bring it back in, and bring it back one frame. Move down until it's sitting in the middle there. And the intro has coming soon, coming in from the foreground to about the middle, and then zooming out, right? So how can we do that? Let's go to 1 second. Hit position. Move over to the left about 3 frames. Make a keyframe. Go all the way to the beginning. Make 2 frames ahead and then hit another keyframe. And you can make another keyframe there by selecting that little control there. Then we're going to come forward to scene. Go back 1 frame. Set another keyframe. Go 10 frames back from that. Again, Command Shift left arrow and hit another keyframe. So this is where we want it to rest. This is where we want it to zoom from the foreground to the background slowly. And this is where we want it to slowly pan in and then zoom in very fast off into the distance. And before I do that, I'm actually going to change the size of it to about 200. So let's go back over here and change that. And at this keyframe, I'm going to enter in 3000. Then I'm going to go to this keyframe and enter in 3500. That's going to take it from around here to there, and slowly moving in, and then we need to zoom out quite a lot, right? Wow, what's that going to be? Maybe 20,000? And I'm going to hit N. So that's going to move the playhead just into this part here. You can set the beginning by hitting B. So let's go back to the beginning there and hit B again there. And we're going to hit the spacebar again to preview what we have. Okay, and you can see the movement there is quite linear. It just goes back in, stops pretty abruptly, zooms in a little bit, and then goes out. So we need to add something called easing to these keyframes, which is going to make the movement a bit smoother. So I'm going to right-click on all of them after I've selected them, And you can just do that by clicking and dragging, or going over to the left-hand side here and selecting position, which will do that. I'm going to right click on one of them, go to Keyframe Assistant and select Easy Ease. Then I'm going to select this one and add something called Keyframe Velocity. So this is how fast it's actually going to come in. So at the moment it's about 33% influence, so that just means it's going to be coming in at a normal speed. We want to change this to something like 80. And now let's preview it again. Let's go back to the beginning, hit the spacebar. Okay. That looks a bit better. There's something interesting happening here where it kind of pulses a little bit. So what we want to do there is select this one, right click on velocity and change this to about something like 16. And then go forward to this one again and change it to 16. The next thing we need to do is make the word soon appear once it's settling into place. So only coming shows first and then soon shows after that. Now After Effects has a great set of presets that you can add to type. So we're going to go up to Animation, Apply Animation Preset. That's going to open up where they all are. This is selected Animate In folder, and we're going to double click on Fade Up Words. And we can't see anything because it's added keyframes to make that effect happen. Let's see all the keyframes that have been applied to this layer with another great shortcut called U. So just pressing U on your keyboard. And there they are. So if I move this one to there and then slowly move along, you can see it slowly fade in. But we want coming to stay there at the beginning and then to show soon later. So this range selector is going to control how much you can actually see. Let's set that to about 50%. There we go. And then as it comes in, it's going to display the rest of it like that. And I'm actually from here going to jump back about 10 frames and move this first keyframe to there. So soon doesn't show right until the last moment. Then I'm going to right click here and go Easy Ease In. What's great about these keyframes is if you select one of them and go up to this graph editor, you can see this speed graph there. You can select this and change this to Edit Graph Value. That's going to show you the kind of curve you're getting there. So it's starting off slow, speeding up, and then settling for a bit and then going way off into the distance. And you can toggle between that view and this view whenever you like. If we select this keyframe and show the same thing, we've just got constant movement until it starts to slow down. And if you were to grab this handle, you could make it slow down a little bit more. Okay, we just needed to have it fade in the beginning very quickly and then fade out at the end. So with this layer selected, we're going to hit T for opacity. Now that's pretty much transparency. We're going to make a keyframe here. Go forward 5 frames. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make another keyframe. Go back to the previous keyframe and enter 0. That's going to take it from 0 transparency up to 100. And then we'll do the same at the end. So where it really starts to zoom out, we're going to set a keyframe there. Go back 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hit another keyframe and then go back to that first keyframe that we set there and put a 0 there. And if we add motion blur by selecting the motion blur on that layer, then it's going to make it look a bit more realistic. And the last thing I want to do is make a tweak to that first position keyframe we did. So I'm going to just select U to show all the keyframes. Go to the first position one and you can see that being selected there. Right click, go to keyframe velocity, change this to 16 and this to 80. Let's see what that looks like. That's better. So it's starting in the foreground, going back pretty fast, slowing down before it gets there, and then slowly panning in before it zooms out. And there we go. We've completed the intro. Now let's move on to animating that camera and building up the main scene. And coming back to the main timeline, ooh, what's that? All right, I updated After Effects halfway through the tutorial, which is a bit weird, but now we've got the upgraded 3D gizmos, that's what they call them, that are going to allow us to move things around and rotate them a lot easier than the controls we had before. And the first thing I'm going to do actually is zero this out so the null and the camera are exactly in the same position. And with the null selected, I'm going to go -395 in Z space. Let's add a keyframe. Hit Shift and R so we can see position and orientation at the same time. Make a keyframe there for orientation. I'm going to come back to scene, and I've written these values down, so I'm just going to go through them pretty quickly here. So here we go, follow along. Scene is going to be 115, 190, 50, with rotation of 5, 45, and 0. And you can see the keyframes being made automatically there. As soon as you make one, everywhere you move is going to pretty much make new keyframes. Okay, at cam intro, we've got 115, 250, and -300. I want to change that to 5, 45, and 0 again. Okay, that's looking better. Then we go to cam start, and we enter 135, 245, -280, and the rotation is going to be 5, 45, and 0 again. And since we've done that, we can pretty much delete this keyframe and this keyframe because the rotation is the same from there to this point. We don't need to do it 3 times. Okay, let's quickly just cycle through those. We come from behind the scene. You can see that over on the right-hand side there. To the front of it where we establish ourselves. We zoom in a little bit. Might just turn off motion blur while we're doing this. Then we go to the middle. That's where the camera's panning across, right to about there. Let's go to cam end and enter 1755, 240, and -260. All right, we need to bring it back around, don't we? So the rotation there is going to be 5, 320, and 0. And there we go. Let's go to logo now and enter in the last set of values, which are 1775, 255, and -300. All right. And if we went to the beginning and actually hit B to set the beginning of the rendered section, and then came over here and hit N, it's going to say where we are. Take the resolution down to 1/4, and then we're just going to do a test render by hitting the spacebar. Bit of a wiggle there, but we'll clean that up. Comes around to the middle. Animates over to the right. A bit of an angle. And then comes back to there. All right, let's fix those wiggles between each keyframe. And we can do that by selecting all of the position keyframes, right-clicking on one of them, and going to Keyframe Interpolation. And this is how the object that's getting animated moves between different keyframes. So whether it's linear, it's going to go straight there. If it's Bezier, it's going to curve around and affect the speed. So let's click on that. Change this to Bezier and this to linear. And then we'll see what that does. Just between these two. Okay, that looks like it's fixed it. But I only want to keep Bezier for this to about there. So I'm going to hold down Command and click on this keyframe. It's going to reset it. And then this one. And it's going to reset that one. Now let's hit the 5-second mark, hit N, come back. Okay, we zoom out, slowly pan in, and then take off. That's much better. I'm going to come to the middle here and actually delete this rotation. Then I'm just going to tweak this a little bit so we end up at around there. I'm going to come over to logo and reset that keyframe as well. Let's go to B there and N around here and preview that. Okay, so that's animating straight out as well. Now I'm going to select that first cam start position keyframe. Go to keyframe velocity, enter in 0.55 and 0.60. So outgoing we want to be a little bit slower than it's coming in. I'm going to grab this and change its interpolation to Bezier. Then its velocity to 0.60. Let's go to cam end, select the position, go down and select keyframe velocity. And this one's going to be 0.60. And I'm just tabbing between those values like this, all around the window. And 0.33. Let's go to the rotation keyframe, interpolation, Bezier, velocity 0.60 and 0.0. Okay, just going to save that and then do a quick preview again. Let's hit B at the beginning. That's already set there at the end, and spacebar. And if we watch this play through, it's doing okay here, easing out slowly, but does something funny here. But then it's fine at the end. So let's go fix that middle position keyframe. And to fix it, I'm going to try deleting it, then entering that -395 again here. Let's just check a couple of things. Go back to the graph. And so we can preview this faster this time. We're going to hit beginning at 7 seconds, go to 10 seconds and hit N. Go to 7 seconds again and preview. Okay, that's looking a lot smoother. We just have to move it down a little bit. So let's grab Y, move this up a little bit so we get to about there. Preview it again. Hopefully that didn't throw out the keyframe again. Okay, it's looking all right. So let's go back to scene, hit B, logo, hit N. I'm actually going to drag this in so it cuts off there, grab the camera, drag that in, hold down Shift so it snaps into place. Just save where we are. And I'm just going to select the null, hit U on my keyboard to close up that view. Once again, view all keyframes as U. That closes them again. Because we're about to animate all the elements coming in as that camera pans from left to right. All right, we're going to grab everything we want to animate. So the 3 badges that come in, the icon light canvas null, the enabled shape layer, the 2 elements below it, pages, the 2 underneath that. Let's scroll down a little bit. Icon insert, null, but not the 2 below that. File name, but not the 2 below that. All of these. Oh, it's starting to look very colorful up there. All of these. And all of these. Let's scroll back up to the top. Okay, and we actually need a top-down view. So on the right-hand side, it's already selected there. You can see that little blue rectangle there. I'm going to hit this and change it from custom view 1 to top. That'll give us a top view. We're going to zoom out a bit, hit P on our keyboard. That's going to open up position. We're going to add a keyframe there for everything. Hold down Command Shift and arrow forward a couple of times. Add another keyframe. We're going to right click on this and change this to Easy Ease In. Right click on it again. Change velocity to incoming. Change it to about 95. That means it's going to start off fast and come in and slow down before it rests where it's supposed to be. Now we want to select all of these keyframes again, but to do that, let's give ourselves a bit more room. I'm just going to drag that up, and I'm just going to click and drag right down this side. Okay, let's close this again. And we want all of them to start behind the camera, right? So let's go to one of the gizmos until we find Z. We're just going to drag it forward until everything is behind the camera. Let's make that about 444. That'll do. Just let go. And now they're all off camera. See, you can see the animation pass for all of them there. I'm going to go back to the top. On this first one, I'm going to hold down Command and go forward 3. 1, 2, 3. Select those 2 keyframes and drag it along. Go forward 3 again, and then drag them into place. And you can see what's happening. If I slowly drag here, those 3 elements are coming in just one after the other. That's exactly what we want. Okay, for the next element, I'm going to go forward twice, grab its keyframes, move it across, go forward twice again, grab these, move that into place, and let's try 3 from there for the icon components, and 2 forward for search. Let's make that 3. What have we got left? We've got pages. They can come in 2 after that. Let's do another 2. And another 2. Here we go. So they all settle where the camera is about to start moving. And that next element is the insert icon, which is on this side. So let's just preview that by hitting N here, going back to Cam Intro, hitting B for beginning, and let's preview it. All right, not too bad. So let's go to Cam Start. And for this one, I'm going to hold down Command Shift and go forward 3 times. Select its keyframes, move them over, go forward once. Position that about there. Just going to move over a little bit. I might as well just zoom right out so we can see the entire timeline. Let's go to Cam Start, hit B. Go to Middle, hit N. From here, it's Command Shift forward 1. For this, I might just drag all of these over at the same time. And then do a combo of Command 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and you guessed it, 1, 2, 3. And if we slowly scrub those, we can see them coming in as the camera makes its way past them. That's what we want. To about the 9-second mark now. That's great. And we'll try doing the same thing here where we just go forward 3. Let's grab everything from here down until we get to the assistance icon and drag those over. and continue that pattern. And we're going to come back and tweak some of these a little bit later. We may make the distance between this keyframe and this keyframe shorter for a few of them, just so they come in a little bit faster. Don't know why I'm leaning in so much. It's like, am I going to lose sight of those keyframes if I just keep my head still? No. All right. So let's scrub through and see how they look. Okay, they're all coming in okay. All right, that down chevron is supposed to be coming in at the same time as the tools icon, because they're coming together. Okay, I'll see what I've done there. I'm supposed to animate the null, not the icons themselves, so let's fix that. Let's turn on the null. I'm going to go to this end keyframe here, align those two together. This is where 0 is, so let's make a keyframe here on that null. Then we're going to delete these two and those two. Command Shift, go backwards a couple of times. Change this to -444. That's going to pull it back behind the camera. Go back to this keyframe. Change it to easy ease in, like we did with all the others, and then change its velocity to incoming 95. Okay, how does that look? Oh, that's better. And okay, with that fixed, let's go down and do the next batch, which are the distribute and align icons. Now they come in a little bit earlier. So as other things are falling into place, they are starting to come in. So let's grab all of them and move them over to about there. There we go. Then we hit device around there. Here we go. Let's drag them there. And then command 1, 2, 3. Looks like a TIE fighter. Okay, this one just needs to move one more along. And how's that look when we go past them? Well, they're coming right in the path of the camera, which may look pretty cool. Bit more depth there as they come in. They'll be motion blurred later on, so that'll look even better. Let's do 5 frames. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Grab all of these and move them over. These are the remaining elements, which are the device drop down and then the text values for focus enabled. This one's called enabled as well because I didn't know what it was, remember? I think it was fit. And if you wanted to change the name there, you could always enter that and change this to 3. And I actually made it degrees in the sketch file, so let's do that. Go forward 3 from there. Three again. And 3 again. And how did they look coming in? Okay, you kind of missed those last two. So what can we do there? We can tighten these up a little bit. A little bit better. Let's make these last ones come in a bit faster. So from there, let's go back 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. From the end of this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the end of this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. From this one, let's go forward 3. Select all of them and then drag them in. Okay, that's a bit better. Now I'm just going to hit at cam end, at cam start. You can see the beginning. Let's see how they all look together. Everything else comes in and you can see it zooming in except for the last 3 or 4. So this, 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 and this. So let's go find them and pull them back a little bit. So I'm going to position the playhead at the end of that bottom one there. Go Command Shift forward once. Grab those 4 and drag them over to meet it. That means they're going to settle a little bit later. Okay, that looks like it's fixed it. All right. Just 2 more frames, maybe 3. Let's go to Cam Start, press spacebar and preview again, see how that all looks. Okay, I don't mind that much. But at the end here, we've got elements coming through, okay. They start to come in, and then that comes in. All right, so I'm going to take all the align ones again and move them over. Pretty much to where cam end is. Okay, let's try that. I'm going to begin here actually and go from there. All right, that's fine. Let's go to the top. Go Command A to select everything. Wow, look at that. Hit U on our keyboard twice to close up everything. Go to Scene, hit B. Okay, we just need to turn off the null visibility for this one because it's a little blue line around that toolbar icon. There we go. Okay, we're almost at the finish line. Now it's time to do that 3D logo. And this scene is animated in Cinema 4D, an awesome 3D animation software. So here's the trial page. I'm going to put all the links to everything you need to install, like we did at the beginning, and this in the description of this video anyway. So install it, play around with it, get to know it, have fun. It is a very fun piece of software, just like After Effects. I mean, for me, if I'm using After Effects at work, it's like I'm not even working. I'm getting paid to have fun. It's ridiculous. So let's go and have a look at the scene inside Cinema 4D. And with the scene open, we can go to the timeline and just scrub along. You can see the animation has already been done there. And I'm not going to spend too much time in Cinema 4D. I might do a couple of tutorials in the future. We've got the sketch model here. There's a physical sky set up to light it. I'll set up a camera that's just looking at it. That's the icon itself with a bit of a bevel. And then the ground, but I've turned the ground off. Now, if we do a test render of this, that's all we need, right? Just comes in, animates a little bit, and then we're at the end of the video. So let's take the pre-rendered PNG sequence into After Effects and place it at the end of our timeline. And back in After Effects, let's go move the playhead to where logo starts. Then we're going to come up to where it says 3D in the assets. There's the sequence that's already been imported for you. You can drag that down Let's put it there above the camera null. And if I hit B here, go to the end and hit N, we'll be set up to animate it, because you can see that it doesn't take up enough of the time we need to fill up that end part. And it actually starts animating at about there. So let's move it over to there. Right click on it, go to Time, enable time remapping. This is going to allow us to duplicate this keyframe, put it at the beginning, duplicate this keyframe at the end, and then resize the left and right of its length. And time remapping basically says, okay, at this point, you want to be at 0 in the timeline. I'm going to allow you to make keyframes so you can stretch out the beginning. Then I'm going to play normally. Then I'm going to hit this keyframe where you want to be at the end of it, which is 25 frames actually. And then I'm going to hold that until the end. And let's go to that second keyframe and hit S on the keyboard. That's going to open up scale. I'm going to make a keyframe there. I'm going to go back to the beginning. Again, just Command Shift left arrow, hit another keyframe, and change the scale to 150. We're then going to go to this keyframe, right click, go easy ease in, right click again and change the velocity to something like 60. Let's preview that. And we're almost done. All right, let's go back to the beginning and just check if everything looks all right. Now, I know that there's going to be missing motion blur on almost everything. So let's just close down the second view. I'm going to hold down this drop down and go to one view. Then I'm going to change this to active camera. Let's zoom in a little bit so we can see everything. Let's actually drag this down so we can see the whole area. Let's preview again. All right, I'm going to turn motion blur on. That'll help. Now anything with this turned on should have motion blur on it. You can see that there. See how it kind of feathers as if it's moving really fast and causing a lot of motion blur. Okay, from the scene point, let's actually change the Z space to 45. Okay, that's going to fill back in. Preview from there. Whee, lots of blur. Okay, pages doesn't have motion blur, so let's fix that. There you go. Continue playing from that point. Okay, that text also doesn't have motion blur. Let's turn that on. That's better. Press play again from there. Yes, sir. Toolbar. Other things. And the sketch logo. All right. I'm going to change this back to full, and that's what you would render out as. So let's do that next. And although you can render directly out of After Effects, I'm going to be using Adobe Media Encoder. So you can download a trial here. Again, I'll put the link in the description of this video. And once you've installed it, we'll move on to the last step of this tutorial. Before we do that, just make sure you've saved where you are in After Effects. We're going to close After Effects, open Adobe Media Encoder. You've got your media browser on the top left, your preset browser, and there's all my YouTube compression settings there. The queue, and this is where we're going to add the file, and then the preview of where you're going to see it encoding. So let's select Add Source, find the After Effects file that contains the composition that we want to render out. The Import After Effects composition window pops up. So this is looking into the file where we can see all the other assets that are there. We can see the original composition, and we can also see this one. So let's open that. And it's pre-selected one of my YouTube settings, but I'm just going to click on this. And it's here where you can tweak your settings for what output you want. I've got the format at H.264, but you can see there's ProRes as well, even animated GIF, QuickTime. I'm going to drop this down and go override it to high quality 1080p HD. Then I'm going to uncheck audio because we don't need that. Let's just go down. It all looks fine. I'm going to leave the bitrate encoding to variable bitrate, which is what VBR stands for. That's going to put it at about maybe 20 to 24 megabytes per second. I'm going to use maximum render quality. Let's just go back up. Render at maximum depth. And I'm going to click on the output name. Go to my desktop. Just going to remove that 2 from there. Press save and then OK. Now I'm going to go up to the top right and go Start Queue. And in the preview window, we can see our animation cycling through its frames. It'll give us a remaining time. So after that's done and this blue bar reaches the end, we'll come back and take a look at the video. All right, and that's what we want to see, a green tick there, which means that this file is our video. Let's double click on it and let's take a look. Coming soon. Sketch Big Sur with a very nice clean UI, lots of crisp toolbar symbols, and a spinny icon. And that's pretty much the end of this tutorial. You've learned how to bring something from Sketch into After Effects with the AEUX plugin pretty quickly. It all builds automatically, which is fantastic. Then animate it, bring in some other elements like the 3D sequence at the end, and then animate some type at the beginning. Throw in tons of keyframes that we then change the speed of. And we learned about the camera, nulls, just tons of stuff. I had a lot of fun. I hope you did too. And yeah, I hope you're taking care out there, looking after yourselves and each other. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.